One more announcement is there is a VBS planning meeting in room 3 following services. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, head directly to room 3 so that you can be a part of VBS this year. It's a great boost in the arm during the summer months, and we get tons of people. Usually they are, I'll call them periphery, right? They have connections to us, friends, neighbors, family members, and it's an opportunity for us to just share Jesus with people and let them know how much we care about them. So room 3 immediately following services, and now Abel won't kill me. Good. Yeah. Or Madison, either one. Either one. And also, man, I love Randy's heart. I'm so thankful he's an elder. I get choked up just looking at him. And so it's the way it goes. I love that brother. I enjoyed the military. I should clarify that. I like the Air Force. I don't know if I'd like the other branches. I know me, but I like the military. I was talking to Zach Brown this last week, and he's got some decisions to be making in his future. He said, do you miss it? Do you miss parts? And I say, there are parts that I missed about being in. There's a few things. The camaraderie, there's nothing, and that's a military word for we get along well together. We do things together. It's a group of unified people doing a mission, a particular task. I enjoyed that part of having a purpose, something you could work towards on a daily basis, and then knowing that there was a group of people that had your back in the toughest of situations. It creates a bond that is often difficult to replace. And so when you leave that's usually one of the first things that people mention about taking off the uniform. Is missing that camaraderie. The other part is taking off the uniform. There's nothing like being told what to wear every day of your life, and it's a freeing experience. I recommend it. I know that there's some tech giants that they just wear the same clothing. They have 15 of the same outfit because it's nice to just wake up and wear the same clothes every day. It's one less thing to think about. The mental load is removed from what should I wear to, I know, I'll wear the brown and the green and the black. And that's real simple to deal with. But when people ask why I left the military, the answer is simple. The answer is simple, and I can remember as if it were yesterday. I was standing in a commander's office, and I was being harshly criticized with yelling because one of the people that was under my supervision was unable to pass the physical fitness standards. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm fit, I'm able to do what I need to do, but someone else was unable to, and so I was getting chewed on for them. And I remember thinking to myself, do I want to do 12 more years of this? I had already been in about 7.5 at the time. My time was coming to an end for my second enlistment. And I remember thinking to myself, is this something I want? To be yelled at for the next 12 years because someone else can't do something or won't do something? Then it dawns on you that the military often makes me responsible for other people. Not just the idea of, hey, I want to cheer you on, I want to bring you along, but I actually become responsible for you. And it's something that they do from very early on. If someone doesn't do something, the whole squadron, the whole platoon, the whole company does push-ups because this one person. It's this idea that we all carry the weight of whatever failures that person has. It's a very difficult thing to wrap your head around because I would sit back and I do not want to be this person where I'm in trouble for someone else's failures. It was something that grated upon me. And even today, I still have issues where if I feel like I am being responsible for someone else's actions, it kind of rubs me the wrong way, and I kind of bristle up about it. But there's something about the gospel that's different. Something that's different. As we look at Luke today, I want us to not just think about us being responsible for someone, but there's actually something that we see that we are going to be responsible to those around us. Not for each other's actions, but to each other. I'm going to make sure that you have the opportunity to succeed. I'm not just going to carry your load, but I am going to make sure that you have everything you need. And so with that, we turn to Luke chapter 17, starting in verse 1. And he said to his disciples, "Temptations to sin are sure to come, but woe to the one through whom they come. It would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were cast into the sea than he should cause one of these little ones to sin. Pay attention to yourselves. If your brother sins, rebuke him. And if he repents, forgive him. And if he sins against you 7 times in the day and turns to you 7 times, saying, 'I repent,' you must forgive him." This is one of those grab you by the collar teachings of Jesus. This passage comes immediately after this parable of the rich man and Lazarus, the beggar Lazarus, and it's a teaching that demonstrates that we are responsible to those who are around us. The rich man sees the beggar outside his walled, domicile every day, and the emphasis of that text is you had an opportunity to help him while you were living. And while he suffered, you did nothing. It's a hard teaching, this rich man and Lazarus. And immediately following that, we have this text about temptations. Jesus' statement is simple enough. He says, look, temptations are guaranteed. They are a part of life. It only takes a person with 2 brain cells to put those together that we shouldn't be surprised that we live in a world where we are tempted. Temptations are simply those things that would lead us farther away from God. If we were to indulge in the things that tempt us, we would be pulled farther away from God. And so it's simple. We live in a world where temptations are guaranteed. Those things are going to come into our lives that want to pull us away from God. And sometimes they don't even seem to be dangerous. They don't seem to be those things that we would be guarded against, and yet they worm their ways into our lives so that we lose track, we lose sight of who God is and what he wants from us. However, this is where Jesus' teaching becomes intensified. Not only are temptations guaranteed, but he places an extra emphasis on his followers, and he says, "Woe to you," or judgment awaits the person who does the tempting. You see, there becomes this understanding that it's not just, hey, temptations are out there, but he says, my followers will not be the ones that do the tempting. My followers will not be the ones that push people or pull people away from God. Contemplate this statement with me. So often I am only concerned about myself. I do what is right by my standards. I try to live a good life. However, Jesus' words reflect that I am responsible to the people around me. That the way that I live has ramifications in the lives of the people that I come in contact with. That if I think that I am all alone, an island unto myself, then I have to do some deeper reflection. I must consider that I am not leading people away, but that I have a responsibility to them. That my actions do matter in the grand scheme of things. I must consider those who are around me. If I am causing others to sin, am I leading them to temptation? There are many dangerous examples of this within our world where people will do this. Maybe they will dismiss sin and they will not reflect on the seriousness of God's calling. Everybody sins. That's just the way that it goes. That's just life. So they dismiss it. They push past it. Or perhaps they will sit back and they'll just excuse sin and chalk it up to God's grace. God is good and he is gracious. And so, you're allowed as many sins as you want because God is gracious. We'll just chalk it up at the end of all things. God will take care of us. And then there's even one that's even more difficult, that our our actions might lead people toward a sinful lifestyle through either the way that we live or through ambiguity. Sometimes we're so nebulous about the things that we do that we don't lead people towards Christ. We just say, hey, it's okay. Go live your life. I'll go live my life. And because we just drift out here, that it allows people to do whatever they want to do. Jesus' words reflect our responsibility to others. In fact, Jesus' response to these situations or to the possibility that we might lead others away, he discusses a millstone. That's what I have on this picture around you. You see, this millstone would have a post stuck through the middle, and a donkey, a beast of burden, would walk around in a circle, dragging this millstone, crushing grain, crushing whatever is there so that you can make breads and all those nice necessities that we grow accustomed to. With Jesus' words, he says, it would be better if you took this millstone and you placed it on your neck like an uncomfortable necklace and jumped into the ocean. You get the gravity of Jesus' words. So often we look at this and we're like, this is a hard teaching. Jesus' words, when his disciples heard this, when they thought about a millstone jammed over the top of your head, your neck craning through, and then jumping into the ocean, they understood the gravity of what he said. This is not an easy teaching. This is something that would be something that would make you question, what am I doing? What am I doing? Because this is heavy. No pun intended. Jesus' words here, he says, pay attention. Pay attention to yourself that you don't lead others to sin. This responsibility, this word attention or to pay attention, proskeko, it literally should have this connotation. We like visuals. This word within ancient Greek literature is like a ship coming into a dock. And when you do that, I'm not a sailor. I'm not a person who understands ships, but I know that there's some bad stuff that can happen if I'm not watching where my ship is going. Either I can do some bad stuff. I can destroy my own vessel, right? I can really hurt what I'm in. The other side is I can damage the dock. I could come in and I can make a problem for people for years to come. So often we don't think of our sin as having these ramifications, or leading others to sin can cause these ramifications, but it can, and it can last for generations upon generations. And so he says, look, you might destroy your dock, the vessels around you. You might damage the people you really care about. So pay attention. Pay attention. And he says, not only pay attention for yourself, but then he says, if you see your brother sinning, if you see someone else who is trying to live a life that is focused on Christ, if you see him, there's some things that we should do. He says, first rebuke them. But there's this ownership on us that it's particularly to the family of those who are trying to follow Christ. If you see your brother sinning, I'm responsible to those who are of the family of faith. There are some people who have chosen to not follow Jesus, and as tragic as that is, they're not gonna adhere to a rebuking. They're gonna hear it and say, oh, you know what? You're a Bible thumper. You're an individual who wants to push some morality upon me that I don't agree with. However, if it is a person who is trying to follow Jesus, there is something else that happens when you rebuke them. And we often see rebuking as a negative action, but the word also carries this connotation that it means to restore them to honor. They have done something that is shameful, that is something that they would rather forget. And he says, rebuke them, restore them to honor. It's a very It's a very kind thing to elevate their status. To say you were once here, but you can do so much better. It's an encouraging thing. So often we look at this and I don't want to be rebuked. But it is very kind, in fact, to restore honor, to elevate status. It's like you're lifting them out. When you lift someone out, it is being responsible to them. It's not fixing their mistakes. It's not living their life for them, but it is setting them up so that they can recognize that I am not the sum totality of all the things that I have done, that I can be better, that I can have honor, that I can live in this world and hold my head up high because I'm valuable. We don't understand the gravity of sin. We don't understand the gravity of shame. And yet this teaching by Jesus, he says, don't be the one that leads others astray. And in the same idea, when you see others, restore them, honor them, elevate them from where they have been. And you could understand that when you hear this, there is a push and a pull between these thoughts of living in a way that honors God and also elevating other people's status. This is a tough thing. But Jesus adds one more area of responsibility. One more area of how we are responsible to each other. Because what if someone is sinning and they are sinning directly against you? How can I be responsible to that person? What if they have personally wronged me? Jesus' teaching holds this. He says, forgive them. What if someone, right, I didn't tempt them, I didn't have anything to do with this. How am I responsible? Well, my responsibility is that I forgive. That's tough. That's tough, but I want you to know that forgiveness is liberating. It will free you. It frees the one who has wronged you, but more importantly, it frees you. When we hold on to sin, when we hold on to shame and to guilt, and even if it is not ours, when I hold on to that, I am trapped by my own emotions. I am trapped by those things that I should not be trapped by. And so Jesus says, forgive them. Forgive them. In fact, he intensifies it again. He says, forgive them 7 times. And Matthew says 7 times 7. 7 times 70. It is forgiveness without end and perfectly. When you forgive someone, forgive them perfectly. Not holding on to it. Not saying you forgive them, but then not really forgiving them. We know that happens all the time. I forgive you, but you really haven't forgiven anyone. Man, this is tough. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of looking after other people. It's a lot of feeling like maybe, does this seem out of skew with you? And how did Jesus' disciples respond to this passage? How do they respond to a really difficult teaching from Luke chapter 17? Simple. Increase our faith. This is tough. This is hard stuff. What are we to do with this information? Increase your faith. Now, this is a passage I think has been hijacked. It's one of those passages that when we think about increasing our faith, we often reflect on miracles. We think about these grand ideals, but I want us to look at it from a different perspective. Now, our faith is often lacking, and if it were more, even the size of a mustard seed, it would be immense. And so we do need to ask for more faith. But I think sometimes we don't look at this in the full context of what Jesus says. He has just delivered a very difficult teaching. The apostles, the disciples closest to him, will be sent out, and they've just been handed a very difficult lesson. And they want to know, how in the world are we supposed to teach that? How am I supposed to go to others and say, hey, I know you're doing a good job not sinning, but also don't cause others to sin. I know that you think that you're doing what is good and righteous and taking care of yourself, but if you see someone else sinning, you know what? Help them out too. How am I supposed to teach that? That's really strengthening my obligation to those around me. You want us to tell others to live in this world and to be responsible for those around us? You want us to look at both sides, that it's not just a me game anymore, it's about others? That's a difficult teaching. And so they say, increase our faith. How am I supposed to do this within this world? And Jesus' response is blunt, to say the least. He says, if you had faith like a grain of mustard, like a grain of mustard seed, you could say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it would obey you. And so they say, how are we supposed to teach this? How are we supposed to deal with this really difficult teaching? They say, okay, then increase our faith. Give us more faith so that we can understand this better. And Jesus' response is far different. Jesus' response is not to increase their faith in this reality, but for them to understand what they're putting their faith into. What this is a reflection on a passage from Jeremiah chapter 1. Jeremiah chapter 1 is phenomenal. As God is calling Jeremiah, Jeremiah has these same questions. What am I supposed to do? How do you want me to go to the people of Israel and say what you want me to say? And so in Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 9 through 10, we're going to get the answer to that. Then the Lord put on his hand and touched my mouth. And the Lord said to me, behold, I have put my words in your mouth. See, I have set you this day over nations and over kingdoms, to pluck up and to break down, to destroy and to overthrow, to build or to plant. You see, whether it's Jeremiah or the apostles, what we are given is this understanding of picking up a mulberry tree that's uprooting the mulberry tree. We understand that, Jeremiah's words, and then planting it in the sea, an impossibility. This language that Jesus uses is an impossibility. To uproot a mulberry tree, or some versions say a sycamore, something with very deep roots, and then to plant that in the sea, you understand the impossibility of that action. And yet, Jesus, when his disciples say, increase our faith, he says, I want you to understand what I'm asking you is not what you're considering. What I'm asking you is to recognize that the words that I'm giving you, the words that I have just said, to not lead others to temptation, to not cause others to fall away, to be responsible to people, that our words have the ability to raise up, to tear down, to destroy, to overthrow, to build, or to plant for the kingdom of God. Now, each one of these words, when we consider them, we have the ability to raise people by giving them the gospel, raise them from the dead. We have the ability to tear down the strongholds, the things that keep people from coming closer to Christ. We can destroy the works of Satan within their lives. We can overthrow the evil one. These are from the words that God has given to us. He has blessed us with his scriptures, with his words, so that we can do all these amazing things, these difficult teachings that so often we hide from, that we shrink back from. God has said, and Jesus says to his disciples, use my words. They have immeasurable power. use my words, they are able to build others up in a way that you can't imagine. Being responsible to people. Using our words to do these very things. Sometimes there are things that are in our lives that need to be torn down, destroyed, and overcome. Use the words of Jesus. Sometimes people are already at their rock bottom and they need to be raised up. They need to be built up. And these are our words that we use as well. Our words have the ability to tempt others or to restore. They can cause harm or they can build them up. This is the power. And so when the disciples ask, increase our faith, it is not a multiplication of faith, but the courage to put your faith into action. It is the courage to say, these are the words of Christ. I will share them. These are the words that will transform lives. I will give them to those who are around me. Jesus says, you don't need a lot of faith. You just have to trust that my word is true. That Jesus has the answer. And that your faith should be useful. And so often we don't put our faith into practice. So often we just say, hey, that's a really nice thing that I heard on a Sunday morning. Great. And then we go on our way. Increase our faith. Don't be afraid to say what you need to say. Trust that Jesus' teachings are true and that others need to hear it. You may not even know who needs to hear it. But if you bottle it up inside, you might not ever get that opportunity to know that you could say just the right thing to help a person through whatever they're going through. And so just like the disciples sit back and they say to themselves, well, how can we share this message? Increase our faith. Jesus comes along and says, you don't need a lot of faith. You just need to trust in me. I want to close with another hard teaching, but it's in line with this. Luke 7 through 10. It's the following passage. And I think that it's added here. I know that it's added here because it gives us the emphasis for where we should have our hearts and our heads. Luke 17:7. Will any of you who has a servant plowing or keeping sheep say to him when he has come in from the field, come at once, recline at my table? Will he not rather say to him, prepare supper for me and dress properly, and serve me while I eat and drink, and afterwards you will eat and drink? Does he thank the servant because he did what was commanded? So also, when you have done all that you were commanded, say, we are unworthy servants. We have only done what was our duty. When we start this passage, we're given a hard teaching. Hard teaching about temptation and rebuking and not causing others to sin. And so often we say, am I able to present this message? And the answer is, who is your master? Who is your Lord? If Jesus is your Lord, then things start to transform within your mind, within your heart, within the way that you live. Because it's no longer just a question of can we or will we, but rather, like this parable of the unworthy servants, is that we must. It is no longer a question of am I capable of this? Will my words have power? But rather, it is what I've been commanded to do. Becomes that for those that hear Jesus' call upon their life, it is your duty to take these words and to give them to others so that they may be built up or that their lives may be transformed through the demolition of maybe some very unhelpful habits or lifestyles. Built within the framework of this parable is we recognize a couple of things. One, Jesus as the good master. What we hear is he says that the servants will have an opportunity. He is going to allow the servants to come into the feast. This is actually a shocking teaching from Jesus' perspective, from first century Judean lifestyle. For the master to bring the servants to sit at the table and recline with them is astounding. So we should read this, and that should be the first shock factor. But Jesus is a kind and a good master, and he says, you can come sit at my table, you can recline with me, but first, there are some obligations. We will get to recline at the table. We will get to kick back, feet up, enjoy whatever is going on with the master. That is a promise and a guarantee. But first comes our responsibility as good servants. As good servants, we know that is coming and we anticipate that day. But many times, most Christians want that attaboy, want that well done, good and faithful servant. You have done what is required of you. And I guarantee this will happen. But first, there's some work. First, we have to do the things that we've been called to do. Jesus' words here is, don't start eating the feast before the feast has come. Don't start kicking back and relaxing, waiting for the good times when that hasn't happened quite yet. Now, don't get me wrong, there will be blessings. There will be blessings in this life. We have been promised those as well. However, so often we are living as though there's nothing for us to do. There's so much to do. So much to do as we serve the Master. See, each one of these statements is the understanding that while the Master's away, there is something to be done. And then when the Master comes in, he says, serve me, and then you too will have this opportunity. This parable closes with a conundrum, with maybe a paradox of sorts. It's an attitude shift. Some read this and they reverse it within their minds, and we should not do so. And so we're going to break that down. And it all has to do with grace. We have done nothing to earn our spot at the table. You didn't. That's what Cade's message was this morning. We are unworthy servants. We have done nothing to earn our spot at the table. The table was prepared and set by one who is greater than I. And I'm not even a free man to come and sit at the table. You see, I'm a servant. I'm a servant, and I know that I'm a servant because I was bought by the Master at a price that I could not afford. I'm only a servant because the Master bought me. There's nothing that I could do to earn a spot at the table. If I ever get to eat at the table, it is merely because of the goodness and the graciousness of the Master. But as a servant, my mindset should be of such that I'm just thankful I get to serve him. As a servant, I should just be thankful that I'm even in the company of the Master. I know from our perspective, 21st century America, this is so foreign to us. But it's the reality. It's the reality that we're not owed anything. Everything that's been given to us is a precious and a gracious gift. Grace is a gift that you cannot earn. You could never earn. And so it's bestowed upon you. And just like Cade read this morning, and I'm so thankful he read this from Romans chapter 7, it is that, oh, wretched man that I am. I have done nothing. I've done nothing. I am wretched. The things that I want to do, I don't do, and the things I don't want to do, I do. Oh, wretched man that I am. But thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord. Oh, wretched man that I am, but thanks be to God. Thank you for letting me have the capability to come and eat at your table. Thank you for setting a place for me, even though I didn't do anything. The only thing that I did is what you've called me to do. I'm a servant, a humble servant. And so we are wonderful beneficiaries of God's grace. This is it. And so if we get too full of ourselves, so often we think, I've done everything that is required of me. I've done all this great things. You didn't do anything. You didn't buy the food. You didn't set the table. All you've done is come to serve the Master. So what our attitude should be is, I am blessed to partake in the service of Christ. And then one day I can eat with him at his table. What a blessing that will be. This morning we have walked through the first portion of Luke chapter 17. And we've recognized this, that we are responsible to those who are around us. We really are. It means we take a hard stance on sin. We don't soft pedal it because we know that we don't want them to not be able to sit at the table with us. We would rather them be able to come to the table because they too are servants of the Master. And then I will do my best not to lead others towards sin for the same reason. I don't want you to miss out on the opportunity to sit and dine with the Master. I must call it out. This is different than being responsible for someone. Being responsible for someone means that I am trying to live their life for them. However, I can be responsible to individuals. I can give them the message. I can lead by example. I can do what has been called of me because I am an unworthy servant. And when I live in such a way, people will recognize that and they will say, me too. I want to be just like that. But it also means that through faith, we have immense power. Power to walk in a way that pleases God. Power that is trusting the words of the Master. Serving him until we can one day recline at his table. Enjoying the good things that he has purchased for us. This morning, there are probably areas in your life, just like mine, that are probably lacking, that you need to bring into a better alignment with God and what he wants from you. Perhaps you don't take sin seriously. Perhaps you're dismissive towards it. Perhaps we don't take God's power of what he has presented to us seriously. He has given us the words of life, and we should want to take that to others. Maybe one of those areas you don't take seriously enough. Maybe the most egregious thing is that we think we sit on equal standing with the Master, that we can come and sit at the table and we're reclining and we're enjoying life and we're just not there yet. We are not the Master. We are not the same level as the Master. We are servants. Wherever you sit this morning, consider your heart. Recognize it. Where do I place myself within this whole context of Luke 17? If you need anything else from the congregation, I encourage you to come forward while we stand and while we sing.
How I long to breathe the air